Live. Good evening, everybody. This is Jared Austin. I'm with Kairos Public Schools. We're going to give it about 1 minute for people to jump online. Thank you for participating in this live stream to hear about our high school. We're excited to talk to you. We're going to give it about 1 minute. Good evening, everybody. This is Jared Austin. And I'm with Kairos Public Schools. All right, welcome everybody. My name's Jared Austin. I am the co-founder and executive director for Kairos Public Schools, and we're going to talk to you tonight about our newest academy, our Luminary Academy, which Luminary, we're already getting questions. What does this mean? It's a person who inspires or influences others, especially one in a prominent in a particular sphere. So we are calling these our entrepreneurs. In our elementary program, we lay the foundation. We build them as leaders in our middle school. We develop innovative scholars in our KISS program, and then we are going to equip them to be entrepreneurs in our high school program. So I'm going to have Leslie also introduce herself.
Hi everyone, welcome. As you can see, our pictures are here on the screen for those of you who know us or maybe don't know us. My name is Leslie Shebley. I'm a co-founder of Kairos. I'm also currently the Flex-Based Learning Coordinator, and we're excited to be presenting to you on this Luminary Academy. It's been a long time coming, and many of you have been waiting in the wings for maybe even years, so we hope that we can present the program design well to you and answer a lot of your questions.
Yes, and we have a lot to go over with you tonight. It is a startup program, so things are going to continue to evolve and develop over the coming months, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like tonight. And Leslie's going to talk to you about what we're going to cover in this live stream event tonight.
Whenever we do a presentation at Kairos, whether we're doing it to staff or we're doing it to parents, we always want to go over what our mission is. We also like to touch on, especially for purposes of presentations like this, our history. So we're going to go over that, our hope for a fourth academy, and there's hope because we'll talk to you about that process a little later in the presentation. Why are we wanting to start a high school? Why are we talking about a flex-based high school? And we will talk to you about what that means. Who will we serve, our career pathways, dual enrollment, growth plan, approval process, the timelines, which is always important and people are asking about, what we need from you as people who may be interested in sending their kiddos to our high school. And then we will have a Q&A at the end. We are going to work on looking at questions at the end and likely answering them live because we don't have anyone monitoring that and answering questions right now, but we will get to them as best we can. So those are the things we're going to go over.
And before we get started, we would love to have you guys participate with us. We find that these live stream events tend to have even more participation because you could be listening to us live. You could be listening to us on your drive to work or walking your dog or once the kids are in bed. Really, this is a communication method that works for your time schedule. But for those of you that are joining us live, and there's many of you, We would love to just know where you're coming from. If you're a current family, if you're a family from our wait list, or you're a family that is just in the community that's interested. So if you would love to participate with us, just drop your name in the chat, where you're from, current family, interested family, trying to figure out who we are. We would love to connect with you throughout this session. So I'm going to jump into the mission. We start every presentation with what is our mission at Kairos Public Schools. And that is, Kairos Public Schools is committed to empowering generations of learners to think critically, analyze and apply knowledge strategically, and utilize relevant tools to interact thoughtfully within a global community. So this has been our mission statement for 10 years. We still feel like it's relevant today. It does not bound us to a TK through 8th grade program. We actually feel that thinking critically, analyzing and applying knowledge strategically, and utilizing relevant tools to interact thoughtfully within a global community is needed now more than ever, especially in the high school, as they are becoming closer to young adults, and they're going to be making young adult decisions, and they're going to need to think critically. We're in a time where information is being thrown at them in all kinds of different ways, and so we feel that if we hit our mission of preparing our students with these tools, they will be successful. And we've been doing that for the last 10 years of operation. We have 3 academies, as many of you don't know, and some of you may not know: our Foundations Academy, our Leadership Academy, and our Innovative Scholars Academy. We are a community focused school, community service. So annually, our scholars volunteer over 5,000 hours at over 80 different locations throughout Solano County, really because we want to develop responsible citizens. So we are very happy with our academics and the academic success of our scholars. But if we have scholars that are great at academics, but they don't care about people, I'm not quite sure what kind of difference makers we're developing. So we're very happy with our community service focus. And then looking back at over the last 10 years, we've had over 500 different 8th graders go through our system and be promoted over that time span. And so those are students who have not been able to be in a Kairos system for TK through 12th grade. And so we have just, we've been hearing from you guys for years. And so we think the time is now to develop a pathway for a TK through 12th grade for families to choose.
So let's talk about how we started. Back in 2013, a group of co-founders wrote a charter and submitted it to Vacaville Unified School District. And in that charter was a request to serve students in TK through 8th grade, and that is how we were able to launch the Kairos Foundations and Leadership Academies in 2014. What we did notice is that there were a lot of families that had come to us or were on our wait list at the time who were homeschooling families who really loved Kairos, but they said, hey, we really like homeschooling too. And so we began during our second year of operation to look at and analyze that wait list and the public demand and listen to people. And we said, well, let's start a independent study, flex-based academy. And we're going to talk about the differences between KISP and what we're proposing also. So for some of you who are getting confused with the flex-based, we're about to go into that. So in 2016, we started the Kairos Innovative Scholars Pathway, and we have quite a few students there, and we've been going strong ever since and growing every year. And so that brings us to this year as we're looking at the demand again and listening to families as we've been doing and realizing for years now many people have been wanting us to launch a high school. And so that's where the Luminary Academy comes in. So that's kind of our history. That's where we're going. And let's talk more about the why.
Yeah, so again, I mentioned earlier that there is a desire and there's an option to have a TK through 12th grade educational experience. One of the things that makes us unique is we were the first TK through 8th grade program, a public school program here in Vacaville. And the desire was that families can keep their children together for TK through 8th grade in the same organization, have the same systems, activities, leadership, beliefs, and values throughout that educational experience. And listening to your guys' voice, we know that going all the way through 12th grade is desired. And so we want to be able to provide that option, again, because we want to empower our parents and our community's voice as they desire to choose a high school. And as I mentioned earlier, over 500 students have gone through the Kairos system into in-district schools, out-of-district schools, and even out-of-state. And we would like to be able to keep those students in our system and talk and get them invested in our new uniquely designed pathways, which we'll talk a little bit more about this, but a little preview is that the focus pathways of our high school is a biotech pathway, because Vacaville is a booming biotech community. More and more facilities are coming up for biotechnology, and Solano Community College, as well as the City of Vacaville leadership, are saying they need to see a greater pipeline of students coming into the biotech field. And then there's public safety. So public safety has a lot of different components of law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs. It can go into military. There's police dispatchers. There's the medical field and EMTs. There's so many different pathways in public safety, and that is not currently offered in Vacaville. And so this would be unique to Vacaville, that in a public school setting, we would have a career pathway in public safety. And then the other unique component of it is that we are going to have a graduation requirement of financial literacy. So we will have a requirement to, in order to graduate from our Luminary Academy, every student will have to have at least one standalone financial literacy course, which has been a big topic, and there's about 23 states in the nation that have adopted a graduation requirement. California does not currently have that, although there's been talks of that happening in the future. We would be roughly around one of only 10 schools in the state of California to have this graduation requirement. You can develop great careers in biotech and in public safety or any other career, but if you don't have the tools with financial literacy, then you may not be able to hold on to that great income that you have. And the statistics show that California, an average Californian, only has about $400 in their savings account. That is a very scary thing. And so we believe we're going to be able to equip students with tools necessary to create generational change, which leads us to our next component, is that students, including low-income families, will have an admissions preference in the Kairos Luminary Academy, and this will actually, should this petition get approved, it would apply to all of our Kairos academies, an admissions preference for families who qualify for low income. And so that means that our hope is that when they come to Kairos, they'll be equipped with lifelong skills for college, career, and life, skills they'll learn in their core classes and also in these careers, specifically with the financial literacy course, that will create generational change, not just for our low-income families, but all families. But we want to make a concerted effort to bring the generational change for the families that need it the most. And so let's talk a little bit about why a flex-based academy. A flex-based academy is an independent study academy that is defined by law. It has a technical term of non-classroom based program, which is a deceiving term, and it's why we call it flex-based, because we offer a hybrid program of in-person and at-home learning, and Leslie's going to talk more about what that looks like soon. But under the California law, starting in 2019, California required that charter schools, which we are one, that are adding grade levels via material revision, which is what we're asking to do, show that their programs do not replicate an existing offer. So we have to design something that's different than what Vacaville Unified School District already offers. Vacaville does not currently offer a public safety pathway or a biotech pathway that's fully built out yet. and they definitely do not have a graduation requirement of financial literacy. So that alone makes it unique. Also, being that this would be flex-based, it's not a direct competition with Buckingham or Wilsey Wood or Vaca High. It's really meant to be more of a college model that is a mixture of in-person, at-home, and on-campus learning that really we saw through COVID, and many of you are still experiencing today, is a mixture of your work might be all of the above, at home, in person, or online. More and more colleges are moving this direction. And so we feel that it best prepares our scholars for any path that they choose for the indeterminate future. Again, we don't know what careers they're going into, but we want them to be best prepared. And so if they have that skill set to know how to work well at home and in person with others in that college model, they're going to be successful. And then lastly, it lays the foundation for innovation. We've developed our leaders. We want to equip them as entrepreneurs. So being that we're going to have a biotech pathway and a public safety pathway, it's going to have a learning model that allows the scholars to be out in the community more. They will not have to be in school from 8:30 until 4 o'clock or 3:30 every day. Leslie's going to talk about the number of days and everything in a couple minutes, but there will be more opportunities where they'll be on campus getting equipped with skills, and then have job placements, internships, and other opportunities for them to immediately put those skills into practice in order to develop themselves as responsible citizens, as well as get an edge on everyone else that has to wait till the end of the school day or weekends in order to do these opportunities.
So let's dive a little bit more into what we're proposing for our flex-based model. And the best way I can think of to explain it is think about a college model. When you go to college, you know that there's certain requirements that you need in order to get a degree that you're going for. And you have the option of what you take. You might, especially these days, you might take a certain course that's online and virtual. You might take a course that's there at the college. It might be at the extension here in Vacaville. If you were to do a Solano class, it might be in Fairfield, where the Solano Community College campus is. So the way we're trying to we're attempting to make this high school reality is to really look at different ways of going about getting your education. So the first way is scholars can come for up to 3 days a week for in-person options. These options might be taught by a teacher that we employ at Kairos. They might be taught by a Solano Community College professor, but they will be able to take classes at the facility. We're going to be operating this facility around where the KISS building is, where all of our acreage is. So that's one of the options that they would have. So it wouldn't be fully at home. It wouldn't be fully at a site. It would be a combination. Then a scholar could also choose online options. We have, and we're going to talk about that soon, dual enrollment options. We have an agreement in place with Solano Community College and Arizona State University, where our scholars can take courses that fulfill their high school requirements, all while also giving them college credit. And those may be offered at a Kairos facility, it may be offered at Solano Community College, and it may be offered online virtually. We also may have students who say, you know, we don't really want any of those options. We just want a normal independent study program where we don't need to come in, we don't need to do the virtual classes, and we will give them options as well. But the main thing is we also want to, with the pathways and through the pathways, provide our scholars, especially as they get to their 11th and 12th grade years, as they're thinking about college and they're thinking about careers, to do internships and entrepreneurship opportunities. So we'll tease this out a little bit more and talk about our dual enrollment options. And we're frozen, so give us just a second. Here we go. So as I mentioned, we have a dual enrollment agreement in place with Solano Community College. That basically means that specific classes at the Kairos campus, Solano campus, or online will earn those scholars who choose to take them both high school and college credit. So they'll basically be killing two birds with one stone. We also are doing this with Arizona State University. This is something that they offer to high school students in their model, and so we are partnering with them. And then maybe your student says, I don't want any of those college classes, I just want to get my high school diploma. We will provide that option as well, where there's only doing the high school level courses, and then they can receive that diploma and move on. And we're going to, again, talk a little bit more about this. So in case high school is new to you, maybe you haven't had a high schooler yet, and you're like, what are the requirements? So what we've listed out here are the California State graduation requirements, the University of California A to G requirements, which we'll talk about in just a minute, as well as what our requirements will be. So you can see that the base requirements for a high school student to get a high school diploma in California are in the column on the left: 3 years of English, 2 years of math, including Algebra 1, etc. I'll let you go ahead and look at that. There's something called A to G requirements. Many high schools allow their scholars to not only get their high school diploma, but if they complete certain courses or certain levels of courses, they get what is referred to as an A to G level kind of diploma. Basically what that means is they can go directly into a four-year university without having to go to a community college if they didn't want to. Most schools require scholars to opt in to that pathway. What's unique about what we're offering is that we are going to assume that all of the scholars that come to us want to do that, meaning they will still get all of their normal requirements, but they might level up just a little bit. However, we will let scholars opt out of that. If they are not interested, they say, I don't want to do that right now, I would rather just do the community college, or I'm not even sure I'm going to college, that is fine, and they can just fulfill their normal high school requirements and get their diploma. But we will just assume that scholars want to head into that realm, and that actually really makes them more college ready and even career ready, because that puts them that much closer to their goals. You can also see on the far right the KPS requirements. Down at the bottom, the financial literacy course that Jared mentioned is a requirement for graduation. Also the pathways. Each pathway is a minimum of 2 courses. So if the scholar chose a public safety pathway, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this in just a minute, they would take an additional 2 courses.
Yeah, and one of the unique things about our high school that we're developing is you're still going to get that personalized individual support from our staff. And so having a college and career advisor that's working with our students early on and gets to know them in a smaller advisor to teacher or advisor to student ratio is going to get them that attention that they need, so that they understand early on the pathways that they want to choose, and work with the parents and work with the student to make sure that their goals are going to be able to be met by the time they leave our high school.
So more on that personalized approach. As we've been in education for a while and we're kind of looking at trends, we're recognizing that not one size fits all. So one of the things we'll be doing with students, it's kind of similar to what we do in our KISP program, but obviously it'll be a little different because we're offering different options for site-based learning. But we will be providing personalized learning plans, or we call them PLPs, for each student monthly, so that they will know what they have to do. Live interaction with their teachers and community, campus access, obviously we've already talked about that. And we know one of the biggest questions has been, what about the normal high school things? Dances, sports, all that stuff. We're going to talk about that soon. And yes, we are planning on providing that as well. And we're going to obviously have a heavy focus, as we've already mentioned, on college and career advising, because that's kind of what Kairos does, right? As Jared mentioned, in Foundations on-site, we prepare the kiddos that way. KISP does the same thing. And then into leadership, when we're kind of moving them toward realizing that while education is this part of their life and it's very important, we want to make sure that they're ready for adulthood and when they launch out on their own. And so we're going to be providing college and career advising and seminars to prepare the scholars as well.
All right, so we're going to touch again on the pathways, and I would love again some audience participation. So I kind of previewed this already. We're going to have pathways in public safety, biotechnology, and a financial literacy graduation requirement. Looking at the chat, it looks like financial literacy is a winner. But I'm curious from you that are watching this live right now, if you could drop it in the chat, which pathway do you think excites your scholar or your family the most? Drop it in the chat. We would love to see that. Because these are unique pathways that were developed with all of our stakeholder input. So in 2020, just before COVID hit, we went through a strategic planning process. And in that process, we brought stakeholders together, parents, staff members across the entire organization. We had elected officials, city council members, all the different people from the community. And we said, what do you want Kairos to look like 5 years from now? And one of the big things that came up was a high school and having that as an option. And even despite COVID and some of the setbacks and delays that meant, we're still on track with the launching of this program, because it was part of our strategic plan last year to start the development of it, and it's part of our strategic plan this year to get ready to implement it. And so with the public safety pathway, again, this is something that is going to have local fire and police presence and involvement with. This is going to have county sheriff's officers, sheriff's deputies that will be involved. Solano EMT. We're going to get nurses and other in the medical field, police dispatchers, CHP. A lot of different people have been excited about this, of offering courses that will expose students to these unique career pathways, develop, again, responsible citizens, and create a pipeline into a career where they're in need right now. And I think that this is a great thing. And the same thing is happening in biotech. Like I mentioned, every time I look at the news or look at the release from the city, there's a new biotech facility that's coming to Vacaville. And then we keep hearing the same thing. But there's going to be 10,000 jobs that are going to be coming in the next few years. In the biotech world, there's not enough students to fit that pipeline. These are going to be great careers where they're going to make a good financial living, but the pipeline's not there. So this is our effort to try to help with that pipeline. Again, students don't have to pick one of these pathways. So if they come to our Luminary Academy and they just want the traditional experience of high school classes, they will have that option. But this will be kind of the theme of the school and the magnet that we hope will draw all of our partnerships, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But lastly, it would have the foundation of the financial literacy. So no matter what career you choose, whether it's in public safety or biotech or another one, you will know where every single dollar that you make goes, and you create a budget for it, and that you will hopefully have very little to no debt and be able to have generational change and generational impact with the money that you're able to earn.
And one of the great things about all the partnerships that we're going to be going into, as well as who we're partnering with, we've already mentioned some of them: Solano, Arizona State. We also have some virtual curriculum options that offer quite a few courses that give this exposure. So we are able to offer public safety and biotech because of the partnerships that we're working on. As Jared mentioned, for public safety with the fire department and with the police department. With biotechnology, we've been in talks with many of the labs and different things around here, as well as partnering with Solano and ASU, Arizona State, and all of those things not only make the dual enrollment and the college readiness happen, but it also helps with our pathways, because then we can expand our course offerings, and that is something that many schools don't get to do.
So Leslie mentioned some of our partners. We have a growing list of industry partners that continue to be added. So she mentioned Solano Community College. We have local first responder agencies, Arizona State University. One that you may or may not have heard, but it's Next Gen Personal Finance. And they are a organization nationally that has been helping states get financial literacy graduation requirements. They provide free online resources and training to teachers and educators in financial literacy. They provide the coursework and curriculum, all of that, to make that successful. They also have found great ways to gamify financial literacy so that it's fun and engaging for this generation of learners to get involved with. We're partnering with Travis Credit Union and First Citizens Bank, Golden One Credit Union, and then Silicon Schools Fund is also helping us with the launching of this high school. So each of these partners is believing in the mission and the vision of what we're trying to do. And they're all bringing a unique piece, whether it's support, like Leslie mentioned, through dual enrollment, or it's guest speakers and helping us build out the public safety pathway with our first responders, or the curriculum for the Finance Academy, and then even incentives for the students to complete certifications or provide job placements and internships at local banks. All of those are different partners that we want to bring to the table because ultimately they're going to make your high school students experience that much better. And when we all work together for the betterment of our local community, then that's where we're going to see the biggest success. And then we also have a current growing list of supporters. As I mentioned, Solano Community College, Mayor John Carley was on our strategic planning committee. We have multiple city council members. Greg Ritchie and Roy Stockton, Sarah Chapman have been actively involved with helping us with many of the different partnerships that we've announced. Again, Travis Credit Union, Next Gen Personal Finance, even working with our Vacaville Economic Development Director on what is it that the community needs to see with the biotech program? What are the skills that you would like the students to come out of high school having? And then Boys and Girls Club is working with us. I mentioned the Solano Sheriff's Department working with us earlier. Vacaville police officers was just on our campus earlier today, looking for different ways to partner, working with the fire department, and then Solano EMT. There's so many different agencies locally that will be able to have opportunities to work with our scholars and instill unique skill sets that are just going to make those students so many great opportunities as they graduate high school and either choose to go into college or choose to go into the trades or the careers. They're going to be exposed to a lot of different unique opportunities.
All right, so now you've heard kind of the general idea of the type of program we're wanting to implement, and now we're going to talk to you about the nitty-gritty, about what it's going to look like in year one. So because we want smart growth, meaning that we want to make sure that we're laying a really good foundation for our scholars to build upon even in high school, we are going to be limiting our enrollment in the first year to 9th and 10th grade only, which means that first year, obviously, we will not have 11th graders and we will not have a graduating class. But then in year two, those 10th graders will move up into 11th grade, and we will also open enrollment to outsiders for 11th grade. And then by year three, we will have a built out 9th through 12th grade high school. There are many charter schools, even in lower grades, who do this. In fact, when we first launched Kairos, one of the ideas was, well, maybe we only start K to 2 in our first year and then build it from there. And there was actually a lot of people telling us who had done this before, well, you guys should start there and kind of work your way up. But we had such a high demand that we were able to start with TK through 8th grade, which was wonderful. However, in high school, there's a little more at stake. There are accreditation issues we have to deal with, state testing for 11th grade, all of that stuff. And we want to make sure that we're starting small and growing strong. And that's our goal. So 9th and 10th grade in year one, 11th by year two, and by year three, 12th grade. Our goal Once we hopefully get to 2027, 28 is 300 to 400 scholars enrolled total. We are not looking to make this high school huge. We understand that the flex-based model is going to appeal to some families and some scholars and not others. We understand that. But we know that this is going to be a high quality program and that the people who join are going to be in it for the long haul, and we're excited about that.
And partly what makes Kairos unique and special is each of our academies is small. And that we feel like that's the special sauce that keeps our community great, as we keep it small intentionally in order to provide that more personalized educational experience. We get to know the scholars, we get to know you as family members, we get to partner together with you throughout the entire process, and then ultimately the kids are most successful. So we're focused on quality, not quantity. We know that we've had a very large wait list in TK to 8 for a very long time, and likely there will be a large wait list for the high school too. But we want to make sure that the quality is never sacrificed for quantity. And so small, manageable, personalized academies have always been our focus, and that's what's made us successful. And even just because you can get bigger doesn't necessarily mean that you should. And so we're going to be embracing that same model as we build out the high school with our smart growth. All right, so let's talk about what you can do, how we need your support. We've started to share the vision, but we need your help turning it into a reality. So as a public charter school, we have to bring this petition to our authorizer, which is the Vacaville Unified School District trustees. And so with that, we did that 10 years ago. We had over 300 people sign the petition in 10 days. Our charter was approved, and then we had to go up for renewal in 2018. And in 2018, almost 70% of our families wrote a personalized letter to school board trustees talking about their own unique experience at Kairos and why that should continue. So that same idea has to happen here. So we have to go back to the school district and seek their approval, and we're going to talk about those decision makers in just a minute. But there's 3 things that we're asking you to do, only 3 things. So we are going to send out all of our families in the community a link to a website that is going to allow you to write your name, how many kids you have, and then a brief message on what makes Kairos unique and why you would like to see it have a high school. And we, again, like Leslie mentioned, we know the flex-based option isn't going to appeal to everyone, but we have to make something unique and different and not duplicate what the district is doing already. So even if you're not sure at this point, but would still like to see this as a viable option for the Vacaville community, write a letter. Do a support. It only will take a couple minutes. Again, we had about 70% of our families do that at the last one. And we are hoping to have more. We are going to have a public hearing. The public hearing is likely going to be scheduled in November. And that is an opportunity where the public is going to be invited out to a VUSD school board meeting, and they are going to want to hear input from the community. So we would like to see if you'd sign up to come speak to that. And then lastly, by December, there's going to be a vote that the VUSD trustees are going to provide. They're going to have to give, and that's when we're going to know if this is a reality. Again, a lot of people think that Kairos can just expand on its own and add grade levels and go to multiple locations and all those different things. But under the California law, we do have to be approved by a local school district. And so Vacaville is our authorizer. And even though they are also our competition, we have to go to them for approval. So this is, again, just the system that has been set up. And we hope that you'll choose all 3 of these options of how you can help us.
Okay, so I want to just note that we are seeing a bunch of questions now come up and we are going to get to them. So just bear with us. We're working through a few more slides to give you information, and some of that information will answer some of the questions, but we will get to those. So what's our timeline? What we're looking at is submitting our charter revision, which it's basically, as many of you know, our charter is our governing document. It's like our constitution, and we submit it to VUSD and they tell us whether or not we can exist, which they did. We're now basically taking that same charter and revising it to add 9th through 12th grade because we were not approved to do that before. We are going to be submitting that very, very soon. I can't give you the exact date right now for a few reasons, but it will be happening in the immediate, or I should say the near future, in September. Then they have 60 days to provide a hearing where it will happen at a VUSD board meeting, which typically I think there's one occurring right now. And that will happen likely in November. We're thinking probably be right before Thanksgiving. And then after that, they have an additional 30 days to make a decision, at which point they will issue that decision at likely a December board meeting. The one caveat that is not on our little pathway here is that if we and the board agree that they need additional time to make a decision for a myriad of reasons, that decision could be pushed out to a board meeting in January. In which case, it is possible that our launch time would not happen next school year. That is not our desire, and I'm about to go into, well, in a few minutes, we're going to go into what the plan is right now. But it could push that decision out, which might push the opening out, just because we need time to recruit and do all of those things. But that's not the goal and that's not the plan at this point. So we're hoping that we will have a decision made by December, which will basically be roughly a week or two before Christmas.
And in order to get that decision made, we need your voice and your help. So again, going back to the slide, we need your help. So let's talk about the trustee decision makers. These trustees are elected by the Vacaville community. So a few years ago, Vacaville, along with most cities in our state, switched to districts or trustee areas. So we have 7 trustee areas. Right now, Area 1, the trustee is Nancy Dunn. And you'll receive an email with where these trustees are located to find out if they're a trustee in your area where you live. But either way, all of them will get a vote for our high school. So Daniel is area 2. John is area 3. Lindsay, it looks like we put her on here. Lindsay Kelly looks like she is going to be the winner of the special election in area 4. It's not 100% official yet, but it definitely looks like she's up by about 50 votes or so, and that's been pretty steady. Santiago is the board trustee for area 5. Area 6 is pending a special election. So there is a special election in Area 6 with his one side of Browns Valley, or a good portion of the Browns Valley area. That special election is not until December 19th. So that person would likely not have a vote, or will not have a vote for a board meeting decision in December. Like Leslie mentioned, if we agreed to move it to January, then that person would have a vote then. But these are the 6 people that will have a decision. There's lots of district staff members, district teachers, all of them might have a voice in the process, but none of them have a decision. These 6 people will be the decision makers on whether or not you get a high school with Kairos Public Schools. And that is going to be something that we hope them as elected officials, that you will let your voices be heard and your desire for this option. They know that 4 of them are going to be up for election next year. So I hope they take the opportunity to listen to your voice and your desire and make the right decision of approving this option for the families in our community.
All right, so let's go back to the timeline. So let's say we get approved in December, which is the goal. Beginning in January, we would start student and teacher recruitment, which means all of you know that open enrollment begins for our site-based academies as well as KISP on January 1st. So if we have new students wanting to join the Kairos community coming from another school, or if we have a site-based student that wants to move over to KISP or KISP to the site-based, they would apply during this open enrollment time for that other academy. The same thing would happen in Luminary Academy. It is an academy of Kairos Public Schools, so we would have open enrollment during that time. So people would fill out applications. We would have a lottery during the same time as we have the KISP lottery as well as the on-site lottery. And then come June, we would be publishing course schedules that would be released. This is important in high school, as some of you who have high schoolers know how this works. Again, requirements for high school are very different than elementary and middle school. So all of that would be worked out at that time, and we would launch in August of 2024. So that means this coming school year, we would have admitted 9th and 10th graders. And we will talk about numbers and all of that in just a minute. We're almost to the Q&A portion, but we know that the lottery and the preferences and all of that is also a couple of the questions coming in.
Yeah, so if you want to start dropping, I know some of you have already started, but if you want to start dropping questions in the chat, this is our last slide to talk about lottery and enrollment, because we know this is going to be a big question. So start dropping them in the chat, and then we will start responding to them. We have Miss Hobbs helping us filter some of those questions, so thank you, Miss Hobbs. So our lottery is going, well, we anticipate, again, charter schools have to hold a lottery for enrollment if there's more students that want to attend the school than there's space available for. So Kairos has always had to have a lottery since we opened the school with 470 students, and that first year we had over 300 on the wait list. This last year we have around 670 students, and we have over 1,000 students on the wait list. So we anticipate, again, this vision is going to resonate with people in this community, and that we will likely have to have a lottery for the Luminary Academy. So the way that would work is that, number one, just like our other academies, siblings of currently enrolled students or admitted students in KLA, well, that's not going to be the case in the first year, because in the first year there won't be any siblings of admitted students. There could be children or grandchildren of Kairos employees and current members of the board, so on and so forth, that might be applying for Luminary Academy. So that's the first category where we would likely see some students. But then number 3 is where I think most of you are interested. Those are students that are enrolled in 8th grade, either at the site-based programs on site, the Leadership Academy, or at KISP, as long as they were enrolled in that current school year by October 1st. And then it just moves down from there. So siblings of students enrolled in other Kairos programs. There is a 1-mile boundary preference, which is the same on all of our academies. So if there is a student that resides within 1 mile of our learning center or adjacent to it, they will have a priority preference as well. I mentioned earlier that students who qualify as socioeconomically disadvantaged students, you won't be required to provide that information to Kairos, but if you want the preference, we would have to have proof that you're eligible for that preference. And then students from the wait list from the previous year, but there won't be a wait list from the previous year in year 1. And then priority 8 is students residing in Vacaville Unified School District boundaries. So the way that we explain this is that you don't get an extra ping pong ball or lottery ball if you fit multiple of these categories. Your highest priority preference is the preference that you get, and that highest priority gets into the school before the other students would. So if you are enrolled in our 8th grade program, you would be getting in to the school before siblings of students of other students on site, or students who live within 1 mile.
So we realize that this is a little, these are all kind of legalese things. We're required to do this by law. But for those of you who maybe say, well, I have a current eighth grader, I want to know what the likelihood is of my kid getting in if we were to get approved for next year. If you have a current on-site eighth grader in our Foundations Academy, or if you have a current KISP eighth grader that is going to promote this year, it is unlikely that you would not be offered a spot should you apply. Mainly because on the screen here, the number one priority doesn't even exist in the first year. It will exist obviously in years following, but in the first year, there are no siblings. Number two, there may be, as Jared mentioned, a few staff members, eighth graders that might get priority, but they're not going to take up all the spots by far. So really, number three becomes number two priority, and that's where the bulk of students who would want to come over to the Luminary Academy from a current Kairos Academy, which would be KISP or Foundations.
Or leadership.
Or leadership, would likely get a spot. So you would have to apply, just as if you were a KISP student wanting to come on site, you would have to apply, or an on-site student wanting to go to KISP, you have to apply, but you have a high priority in the lottery. So our current eighth graders are highly unlikely to be on the wait list. I can't guarantee it. If every single eighth grader we had wanted to come over to the Luminary Academy, it's unlikely that will be the case. But it is highly likely that your scholar would get in. And I know that's one of the questions that I've seen several times.
And one of the things that I'll just caution you, and I said this 10 years ago, and some didn't take me serious until the second year. But we've heard from people now, and we heard people 10 years ago say, well, we're not quite sure how this is going to work out, so we're going to give it a year or two and let you build out the program before we agree to jump in. This is very much an early adopter gets the advantage type of a system, because if you jump in with us early and help us build the program together, just like we have over the last 10 years, then you will be in a highly sought after program. If you decide to wait a year or 2 years till the program's built out, it is very likely you will not get into the school because of the lottery and because of the wait list, and you will have missed that opportunity. It's not to say that you won't. We have some people that chose not to, and then 3 years later they were able to get in because it is a lottery. But don't miss the opportunity. That's why we say on here, the time is now. Our motto is the time is now. Lots and lots of families decided to wait, and then they were upset with their decision later on. So we hope that you join us, but as Leslie just mentioned, many opportunities will be for our current eighth graders to get in. And now we're going to talk questions.
So one of the questions that I've been seeing is how many spots are going to be available. As we mentioned before, we are planning in a conservative way, just because we don't know what the demand is going to be right off the bat. If it's anything like when we started 10 years ago, there will be a high demand, but we do know that this is high school, things change and shift, and people want certain things now. We do get that. We are looking at probably having anywhere from 30 to 50 freshmen in the first year, and anywhere from 20 to 50 sophomores, depending on the demand for that, because we realize that we'll probably have more freshmen than sophomore in the first couple of years. The other thing I'm really seeing, and we knew this was going to be a big talking point because people who know about this have already been asking, are you going to have sports? Are you going to have extracurriculars? That is the plan. We are going to attempt to offer as much as possible in the first year, and then even more in the second, and then even more in the third. But if anybody was here or heard about our humble beginnings, some things do take time. We can't sit here and guarantee we're going to have a super robust sports program and a robust drama program and all of these things that your high schooler might want right off the bat. That doesn't mean we won't offer anything for it. It just means that we want to build wisely and invest in the areas that we actually have staffing for, we actually have volunteers for, and interest in. If we only have 2 students interested in something, that interest needs to build before we can invest resources into it. And when you have a smaller high school, that can become challenging. But we are notoriously known as entrepreneurs and creative, and so we will do everything possible to make sure that kids get many of the things that they are looking for and wanting. But again, if any of you were here in the very beginning of Kairos, that was one of the big things that people were asking. We want to have all these things for our kids. They didn't join in the beginning because they didn't have everything that they wanted right off the bat, and then they regretted it a few years later. So that's by no means a threat in any way. We're just trying to explain what has happened in the past and what our history is. So we are going to be doing our very best to do that.
Yeah, and another question in the chat is about special education supports and what they would look like at the high school level. IEPs carry with you all the way through high school, so they will still receive their supports, and it will look different depending on if they're coming from a traditional classroom setting into a flex-based learning setting. Some things may have to evolve, but we have a lot of experience. Our KISS program is in its eighth year of operation, so we've had lots of experience supporting our students. We have about a 14% special education population, so we've received state recognition on our special education model, and so that same high quality support will carry on into high school. Which includes in-classroom supports as well as one-on-one supports with an advisor or working on specific goals. All of those different things that we do currently in our flex-based model. But ultimately, it's an individualized educational plan, and so we would have to work with the IEP team on the best supports for the children in the high school setting.
I had a question earlier saying, will KISP offer high school curriculum? So KISP, just for clarity purpose, KISP is a K-8 program. It is not going to offer, KISP itself by nature is K-8. The Luminary Academy is technically considered more of an independent study or hybrid model, and it will be modeled a little differently than KISP. But if you think back to a few slides where we were talking about the different options people could choose, scholars can choose to come up to 3 days a week, they can choose virtual options, and they can choose a full independent study model, which is basically what you do with high school most of the time in programs. Independent study and homeschool are often used interchangeably. I'll spare you all the details on the differences, but essentially homeschool turns into independent study in high school, but it will be through the Luminary Academy, not through KISP itself. KISP will remain the way it is currently, as will Foundations Academy and as will Leadership. This is just kind of the next step for our 8th graders in any of our programs who want to move on to high school with Kairos.
Yeah. So we're seeing the question about would we consider having a junior ROTC program? That's something that, we're not going to say no to, but we don't really know if we could say yes to yet too, because that would be interest driven. If there's enough interest and we can make it work in the schedule, then I think that's something we can partner together on. I know the several from Travis Air Force Base are interested in working with us as well. So that may be a very natural partner for us. So again, opportunities are continuing to present themselves as word is starting to get out on this high school model. And so we will see where that goes.
We're having questions about where the classes will be taking place. We're in discussions about that right now. We've already even talked to our bank about our phase 2 of building over on our acreage next to the new KISP building being our high school building. But the bank obviously wants to see that we're a functional school and we have capacity and all of that. So we may be offering some of the courses in the KISS building, but one of the very viable and likely options is that we will be putting a couple of portables and modulars next to the KISS building on that land that we own. As you know, we own that 27 acres. KISP is on 1 acre, and there's still 26 that we are going to be building out in varying stages. And so, as a temporary house for our high school classes, we would potentially have the portables there, and they would also still have access to the KISP building. Again, starting small enables us to do that kind of thing because we may not need as much space. And also, having a flex-based academy enables us to not need all of the land and all of the facilities and all of the space that a normal high school would. Because a high school, in reality, a typical site-based high school would absolutely take up the bulk of the acreage that we have left if we built it out in the way that a Vaca High was or a Wilsey Wood was. So that's the other thing, is that we can get creative with our facilities.
Yeah, and like Leslie had mentioned, there's questions about extracurriculars and sports. She touched on the sports and music and drama. There will be classes, because as part of the A to G requirements is the arts, and so we will be having music and art classes and different things like that as a part of it. The extent of what all of that is, it's not going to be the magnet of the school, but it is part of the graduation requirements, and the A to G requirements is to have arts programming, and so that will be part of the high school course offerings. And we're scanning through questions. It looks like
I think we've touched on most of them, it seems.
Yeah.
So this presentation is going to live on YouTube for, I guess, ever until we take it down. So you're welcome to reference this. You're also welcome to email any questions that you have. We will continue updating everybody, keeping you in the loop, giving you information and specifics as we hash all of it out. But our focus has primarily been on designing the program and getting it approved, because that is our first step. We can have all the plans for sports and academics that we want, and if we don't get approved by the district, then all of that is in vain. So that is our kind of focus and goal right now. But we thank you all for joining us, and we will continue.
And our last request again is, before you tune out, we're going to send out a link so that you can write your support letter. And if you can like and share this YouTube recording and let the word get out that a new high school model is coming, then we will be excited to make this vision into a reality. So we just want to thank you guys and appreciate it. And we'll be having more information soon. Thank you.